Hello, hello, hello. Anyone out there? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay, Satoyu, I got a thumbs up from you. Okay, so people are coming. Good, good. Um, I don't see anyone yet. I see a cute rabbit. Osaki, hello. Hi. Hi there, everybody. Okay, okay. Well, this is book club number 7 already. Number 7, right? We have many more to go, but this is number 7. I hope everyone had a good day. Did you? Good, good, good. Well, I did. I think my daughter actually took the TOEFL test today, and she was very nervous, and she said it was more difficult than she expected, but she did it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay. Well, let's see. I want to share my screen and then we will begin. Okay, great. So first of all, if you have some information to share about the other How I Lost My Ear spaces, I know Satoyu and Saki have been making some good efforts. If you'd like to share anything about what you're doing to the group, that would be great. Number 2, let's look at some alliteration through tongue twisters. I mentioned this last time. And alliteration, again, is when the sound in a sentence, for example, or a phrase, the beginning of the words have the same sound or a similar sound. And then I will read again, and then I will talk about the text. And of course, you can ask questions, and then we'll look ahead to August 6th. That will be book club number 8. So let's see. I'm stopping my share. Satoyu or Saki or anyone else, would you like to share anything about what you're doing?
Sure. Now we are working on the translation program, like projects of
Mhm.
your book. And then some members have joined in our team, and we shared the link for the Google Drive files, and anyone in the group can edit those files anytime they have time. And then if we have any questions or anything to talk about, we can comment each other. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'm thinking of make up some events to share some like opinions or um like talking about anything about this project. Yeah.
That's great. Thank
So
you
if
so
you
much.
yeah, if
Yeah.
anyone is really interested in that program, everyone is welcome.
Well, that's great. Thank you for doing that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with
Yeah,
it.
sure.
Yeah, it's really wonderful, I think, as the author too. Um, yeah, it's really wonderful. So
Sure, sure. So, I think we really need your help. Like, sometimes we need to talk to you about the translation or the background knowledge or history or something like
sure,
that. So please help us.
sure, that's no problem. I know in some ways it must be difficult to translate, right? Because the culture of the book and Japanese culture, of course, but it's really very different in some ways. So finding the right words or the right tone, it must be an interesting challenge, I think. Okay, great. Satoyu, do you want to say anything? Oh, she's off right now. Okay, maybe we can talk to her later. Let's go back to, wait. Oh, okay. She put something in the chat. Where's the chat? Okay. I opened the spin-off event this Friday, and I'll create the trial every weekend for the time being. I'll sum up the story. So that's great. Thank you, Satoyu. And so everyone be on the lookout for when you're looking at the spaces, upcoming spaces. You may see some spaces that also have the book cover. So if you're interested, then please join and see what's happening. And the latter will talk about the related topic. Okay, great, great, great. Okay. Okay, well, let's jump back into it. I will share my screen. And like I said before, I wrote some tongue twisters. So these are tongue twisters that I wrote for, I guess I wrote them for kids, like when I was at the international school, but really tongue twisters are enjoyable, I think, for adults too. So I've used these with adults, and I wrote about 20 or 22 maybe. So I just chose 5 of them. And so let's look at them together and we can say them together also. The idea was just to illustrate alliteration, because every one of these sentences really demonstrates that, right? So let's look at the alliteration and just enjoy the tongue twister and try to say them together. Okay, so first of all, I'll say it and then we'll try to say it together. Okay, number 1 is, my sister's shop sells shoes for sheep. My sister's shop sells shoes for sheep. I can't say it myself. Okay, are you ready? Ready, go. My sister's shop sells shoes
shoes
for
sheep.
sheep. One more time. Ready, go. My sister's
My
shop
sister's
sells
shop sells
shoes
shoes for
for
sheep.
sheep. Okay. You know, tongue twisters are actually very good for saying, certain sounds, of course, and trying to speak as clearly as you can, and trying to say them, a number of times quickly, just like a Japanese tongue twister, of course. Okay, number 2. The crowd of clumsy clowns crushed the king's crown. And maybe this is a useful one because it has the L and the R, right? Trying to make a clear distinction between the L and the R. The crowd of clumsy clowns crushed the king's crown. Ready? Try it. Okay, ready, go. The crowd of clumsy clowns crushed the king's crown. One more time, ready, go. The crowd of clumsy clowns crushed the king's crown. Okay, good, good. You know, when I was writing these, I realized that it's actually kind of difficult to write a good tongue twister. And what I mean by good is there's a lot of tongue twisters out there in every language, but in English, when I was actually looking for tongue twisters, but a lot of them, they put the sounds together, the words together using alliteration, but the meanings often are really not that interesting, or they're even nonsensical, like they don't really make much sense. So what I challenge myself to do is, of course, the sounds, yes, but I really wanted to create interesting sentences that make sense in a fun way. And it's really hard to do. So anyway, let's go on to number 3. The detective discovered the deadly dagger, is like a knife, in Dad's dirty diapers. Oh, the detective discovered the deadly dagger in Dad's dirty diapers. Ready, go. The
detective discovered the deadly dagger in Dad's dirty diapers.
One more time, ready, go. The detective discovered
the deadly dagger in Dad's
dirty
diapers.
Okay, that's kind of an interesting situation. It's very dramatic, isn't it? Okay, number 4. The twins took the toilet and tiptoed toward town to try trading it for toys. Of course, I think children would probably do this. The twins took the toilet and tiptoed toward town to try trading it for toys. Ready, go. The
The
twins
twins took
took
the
the toilet
toilet
and
and
tiptoed
tiptoed
toward
toward
town
town
to
to
try
try
trading
trading
it for
it for
toys.
toys.
Once more, ready, go. The
The
twins
twins
took the
took the
toilet
toilet
and
and
tiptoed
tiptoed
toward
toward
town to
town to try
try
trading
trading
it
it for
for
toys.
toys.
Okay. And number 5, the peppy puppy, the prince presented the princess, produced piles of poop in the palace. The peppy puppy, the prince presented the princess, produced piles of poop in the palace. Okay, ready, go. The peppy puppy, the prince presented the
The
princess,
princess
produced
produced
piles of
poop
in
in the
the
palace.
palace. Ready, go. The peppy
The
puppy, the prince presented the princess, produced piles of poop in the palace. Good, good. So I'll do the last one and I'll do it maybe 3 or 4 times fast if I can. And you'll see what it sounds like that, right? Let's see if I can do it. Okay. The peppy puppy, the prince presented the princess, produced piles of poop in the palace. The peppy puppy, the prince presented the princess, produced piles of poop in the palace. The peppy puppy, the prince presented the princess, produced piles of poop in the palace. I've lost my breath, okay? Okay, so I'm just jotting a note to myself. I'll try to post these maybe on the board, okay? So if you'd like to look at them again later, you can do that. And so when I post the video, I'll try to remember to post these as well. Do you have any questions about this? Okay, okay. That was just a little introduction. And so, oh, it's time to read. Okay, it's time to read. So let's go to pages 86 to 98. Okay, let's start at page 86. So, okay, so I wanted to say, actually, I mentioned last time that I really enjoy this part, but I have to be honest because I was practicing this earlier today, and it's kind of hard to read because there are many different voices. There are many different characters. So I'll do my best, but you know, if I sometimes get confused, please understand. Sometimes it's hard to switch back and forth, but I'll do my best, okay? So let's start with the dying llama, okay? Are you ready? Okay. It was mid-morning by the time Ben's parents rumbled into Bloat City. They quickly got lost in the maze of gray skyscrapers and smoky black factories, but eventually sputtered up to the golden gates of Governor Glutty's huge white mansion. They parked the Rambler truck by the curb and rushed over to the large guard marching back and forth inside the tall, spiky gates. He had a rifle propped on his shoulder. "Excuse me, sir," called Ben's father. His name was Walter Boyd, a middle-aged man still clinging to his youth. But the bald head under his lucky fishing hat and a growing pot belly were making it hard to hold out much longer. "We need to speak with Doc Sprinkle. He's here from Booney Point for the birthday party." "It's an emergency," added Ben's mother, Lorelei Boyd, in a trembling voice. She had left the house so suddenly that morning, her wavy hair was sticking out like modern art, and just 3 fingernails had polish. The guard stopped crisply and turned. He had a square head and a stern face. "The birthday party commenced at 0900 hours, he said, barking out each word like a German shepherd through the shiny bars of the gates. "I'm under strict orders not to let anyone in or out until the party has concluded at 1500 hours. I can only accept birthday presents for Miss Mary Margaret Glutty. We have a sick llama, sir, Ben's father said, pointing to the trailer. He removed the pale green hat and ran his fingers through his hairless head, a nervous habit from the days his hair was long and lush. He's very sick, Ben's mother said. We're afraid he might be, she faltered and began sobbing softly into a handkerchief. He might be dying, Ben's father said quietly. He pulled his hat back on and put his arm around Ben's mother. The guard paused, listening to the low groans coming from the trailer. His eyes narrowed. What sort of cheap birthday present is that? He barked. Couldn't you even get the little girl a healthy animal? Ben's father blinked. Sir, this llama, I can see you're not exactly made of money, the guard said, nodding at the rusty old truck. But this is Governor Gus Glutty's daughter. Governor Glutty expects healthy animals for his little girl. It's true, someone brought a camel today that had a slight cough, and one of the raccoons had a touch of diarrhea, but a dying llama? Good heavens, man, what were you thinking? Ben's father opened his mouth to speak, but the guard nodded again at the truck and carried on. Now take your dying llama away from here before that groaning puts a damper on a little girl's birthday party. Perhaps you can get your money back and buy a healthy animal instead. There haven't been any beavers yet today, or buffaloes for that matter. You come back with a healthy beaver or buffalo, and that will make Governor Glutty and his daughter, Miss Mary Margaret. Sir, this llama is not a present, Ben's father shouted. His name is Henry VIII, and he happens to be the champion llama of this whole state. He's been the champion for the past 6 years. Yesterday, he was fit as fiddlesticks, and today he's lying on his side and foaming from the nose. Ben's father pressed his face between the bars. We need Doc Sprinkle. We need him right away. The guard quickly swooped the rifle to his chest. I told you, he snapped. I'm under strict orders not to let anyone in or out until the party has concluded. I can only accept presents, healthy presents, for Miss Mary Margaret Glutty. I'm sorry about the dying llama, but you'll just have to wait to see your Doc Sparkle. What about another vet? Ben's mother jumped in. There must be a vet nearby. The guard shook his square head. I'm afraid all the vets in town are at the birthday party too. As you might imagine, it takes every available veterinarian to ensure that all the birthday presents are healthy enough to place in the petting zoo. The guard shouldered his rifle. Now kindly move that moaning llama down the street before I have your vehicle towed. He turned smartly and resumed marching back and forth inside the Golden Gates. Ben's parents stared at the governor's mansion, tears filling their eyes. Then they turned and hurried back to Henry VIII. After moving the truck down the street to a parking meter, they sat glumly in the trailer, waiting for Doc Sprinkle. They each held one of Henry's hooves as he lay there, whimpering in the hay. The Dancing Bear. You may find this hard to believe, but back when your Grandpa Gristle was an infant, there were no newfangled gadgets like the little phones people tote around today like an extra extremity. And so when Ben's father felt the urge to call home and let Ben know where they were, he had to leave the trailer to look for a public telephone. But when he finally found a payphone in a grimy pizza parlor where the owner loudly protested his fishy smelling hat, no one answered back at the Boyd Llama farm. Ben, as you know, was preoccupied with an ogre out on Crabapple Cliff. Grandma, for her part, was pulling a tick from Alf's rump and pretending not to hear the ring. After the 1,000 children had gorged on humpback whale cake and were so bristling with sugar they could hardly sit still, Stanley's performance began. As the music to a happy Irish jig was heard in the auditorium, the big grizzly bear came toddling out onto the stage in his lavender tutu. But the moment he took to dancing, stretching his arms high and clumping cheerfully on his hind legs, the crowd of worked up children let out a howl of laughter. From inside the trailer, Ben's parents heard the howling outburst and then a shocked, angry roar. The governor's mansion quickly erupted in a great commotion of laughter and roars and startled shouts. Ben's father and mother jumped from the trailer. They rushed back to the gates in time to see Stanley, still upright on two legs, come barreling past the fat white columns at the entrance to the mansion. The grizzly bear charged down the tall marble steps leading to the wide walkway, his furry face wet with tears. Behind him hobbled Doc Sprinkle, dressed in a moth-eaten tuxedo. He was a thin man with small spectacles, wispy white hair, and a bad leg. He was clutching a doctor's bag and clicking down the steps with a wooden cane. At the top of the cane was whittled a likeness of Stanley's head in happier times. On the doctor's heels was a tidal wave of children hooting and pointing, led by the hulking Mary Margaret Gluddy in a sparkly pink party dress. A green boa constrictor was wrapped around her neck like a scarf. Governor Gus Gluddy, his frazzled secretary, and dozens of veterinarians were chasing after them. Stanley, Stanley, cried Doc Sprinkle in a high, broken voice. Stanley, wait! But Stanley continued racing down the walkway toward the tall, spiky gates. The guard planted his black boots in the middle of the walkway and whipped his rifle to his chest. Halt, he boomed. The party isn't over. But the bear ran right past him. Stanley then hurled his big body onto the gates with a clanging crash and started scrambling over. The guard whirled around. Halt, he boomed again, raising his rifle. Halt, or I'll shoot. From the top of the gate, Stanley glanced back warily at the guard. I warn you, I'm under strict orders to shoot anyone attempting to enter or leave before the party has concluded at 1500 hours. Clattering up from behind, Doc Sprinkle swung his black bag and knocked the rifle barrel toward the ground. In that instant, Stanley heaved his body over the spikes at the top of the gate. But as he did, he raked his thigh on a spike and tore his lavender tutu. He dropped to the sidewalk on his hind legs, a red gash on his thigh, his eyes round and wild and flicking left and right. A bloody scrap of the frilly tutu still clung to the spike at the top of the gate. Ben's parents gaped at Stanley. Stanley gaped at Ben's parents. Then the grizzly bear bolted to the right, fleeing away in his torn tutu. Doc Sprinkle eyed Stanley's back through the bars of the gate. Stanley, Stanley, he sobbed. But the big bear, sucking furiously on two front claws, dashed away into the distance. Then he noticed Ben's parents standing there on the other side of the gate. He blinked in surprise. Waterboy? Lollipop? Ben's father winced at the sound of his nickname. Doc, the guard! The guard was scowling and striding toward Doc Sprinkle. The children were behind him, buzzing like a swarm of bees. Governor Glutty, his secretary, and the veterinarians were shouting and waving their arms in the air. Doc Sprinkle was bony thin, and he easily squeezed through the gate. But his big black bag got wedged between the bars. He tugged on the handles as the guard drew near. "Water boy, help me!" Ben's father rushed to Doc Sprinkle and pulled him by the waist. The gate rattled and the scrap of bloody tutu dropped off the spike and fell to the sidewalk. Just as the guard was lunging for the doctor's bag, it slipped through the gate. "Halt!" the guard barked, pointing his rifle between the bars. "All of you!" Doc Sprinkle and Ben's parents froze at the sight of the rifle. "I told you to wait until the party was over, didn't I? Now drop that bag, Doc Sparkle, and all of you put your hands over your heads." And then the wild wave of children crashed into the gate. The guard was crushed against the bars, his cap flying off, his rifle fumbling from his hands. It fell to the sidewalk outside the mansion and discharged with a bang. The guard's square head was left jammed between the metal bars. "Where is it?" the children screamed. "Where's the bear?" They pressed their eager cake-smeared faces through the bars and caught sight of a small brown spot. "There it is! After the bear!" Mary Margaret Glutty demanded. "Everyone after the bear!" Then the hundreds of children started squeezing through the bars of the gates like Doc Sprinkle. But their bellies were so bloated with cake and cream soda that they quickly became stuck, their gleeful laughter turning to frantic shrieks and sobs. Governor Glutty and the other grown-ups bounded to the bawling children and started pulling at their arms and legs, trying to free them from the gates. In that moment, Doc Sprinkle grabbed up the scrap of Stanley's tutu from the sidewalk and hurried away with Ben's parents. As he hobbled along with his cane, Doc Sprinkle peered back over his shoulder in the direction Stanley had fled. His eyes searched the horizon, but there was no sign of the big grizzly bear. Stanley was gone. Doc Sprinkle hobbled on. Tears were now streaming down his worn face. "They were laughing at him," he said, his voice shaking. "I told them not to. Before he came on stage, I told them not to laugh. Stanley may not be the most talented dancing bear in the world, but he has his pride, you know." "Of course he does," said Ben's mother, putting her hand on Doc Sprinkle's bony shoulder. "Doc, don't you worry. This happened at the state fair too, remember? But he made his way home that time, didn't he? I expect he'll head for home again." "I hope you're right, water boy," Doc Sprinkle said with a sniffle as they reached the Rambler. "You ride home with us, Doc," Ben's father said. "This will all blow over in a day or two and we can come back here for your truck." Above the shrieking and shouting at the gates of the governor's mansion, a loud groan was heard from the trailer. Doc Sprinkle's wet eyes grew wide. "It's Henry VIII," said Ben's mother. "Doc, we know you're upset," said Ben's father, "but the truth is, we came all this way because of Henry. Please look at him, Doc. He's very sick." "Henry VIII? What's wrong with him?" The llama recognized Doc Sprinkle's voice and groaned even louder. Ben's father shook his head. "I don't know, Doc," he said with a sigh. "He was fine yesterday, but this morning I found him in the barn, stiff as roof beams." "Please, Doc," said Ben's mother, her voice trembling. "Please help Henry." Doc Sprinkle nodded. "I'll do everything I can, Lollipop." He took a quick glance back in the direction Stanley had fled and then followed her into the trailer. Ben's father joined them by Henry VIII's side. Doc Sprinkle knelt down and laid his bag, his cane, and the bloody scrap of tutu in the straw. He stroked Henry's furry cheek. The champion llama was now jittering on the floor, his muscles cramping in spasms. His eyes were wet and wild, and his teeth had begun to chatter. Whitish foam was still frothing from his nostrils. The old doctor took one look at the llama and knew what was wrong. He had seen this once before, years ago, when Stanley was still a cub and first learning to dance. The bear had nearly died right there in its tutu. Ever since then, he kept a vial of the anti-venom in his medicine chest, but he had never needed it until today. Drive! Doc Sprinkle shouted at Ben's father. Drive as fast as you can. A chill blew through Ben's father. Doc, what is it? Doc Sprinkle fought back more tears as he recalled Stanley's own brave battle with death. Henry's been bit, he said, and the anti-venom is back in Booney Point. Bit, Ben's mother said. Bit by what? A white widow. Ben's father and mother gasped. He's dying, Waterboy. We don't have a second to spare. But Booney Point is hours from here, Doc, Ben's father said. There's anti-venom here in Bloat City, isn't there? Bloat City's last white widow was squashed years ago. I'm afraid looking for the anti-venom around here would be a wild goose chase. Halt! They whirled around. Charging up the sidewalk was the guard, the rifle in his hands. His square head now looked more like a rectangle. Halt! Waterboy, go! Get us back to Booney Point. I'll do everything I can to keep Henry alive. Wincing again at the sound of his nickname, Ben's father leaped from the trailer and darted to the driver's seat. Ben's mother clamped the trailer gate shut, but the truck wouldn't start. Halt, or I'll shoot! The guard was approaching fast. The engine sputtered and sputtered, and finally, with a blast from the tailpipe, the Rambler roared to life. The guard raised his rifle, but the truck spewed out a cloud of black smoke blanketing his face. And with a squeal of bald tires, Ben's father sped off for Booney Point. Okay. I'm kind of exhausted. Okay, let me put my glasses back on and let's talk about it. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Okay, so on page 86, paragraph 1, this might be an interesting question, okay? It's about word choice. It was mid-morning by the time Ben's parents rumbled into Bloat City. Rumbling is like the sound of thunder, okay? It's a deep sound like thunder. Ben's parents rumbled into Bloat City. They quickly got lost in the maze of gray skyscrapers and smoky black factories, but eventually sputtered up to the golden gates of Governor Glutty's huge white mansion, okay? So my question is, what is the effect of using these verbs, rumbled and sputtered, instead of verbs with a similar meaning here? So for example, we could say it was mid-morning by the time Ben's parents arrived in Bloat City, right? Or arrived at the Golden Gates or reached the Golden Gates. The meaning would basically be the same, right? It means arrive, but why did I choose rumbled and sputtered? what is the effect of choosing these verbs? Any ideas? Any thoughts?
Actually, that was my question for the
Okay.
session. So, what I thought when I read this part was like when I saw this word rumble into Blood City, like that this word describes the deep lower sound, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought their truck is really old and they're in like they're in hurry, right? They're really upset. So I could imagine like how um like confused or upset the parents, Ben's parents were, and in their really old noisy truck. So that was something that I thought when I saw this word. And when I saw the word sputtered up to the Golden Gates, like sputtered, when I look for this word, look up this word in a dictionary, it says to make a quick explosive sound. So it's quick sound, right?
Right, right,
So
right.
like I could I don't know. I could imagine they pull the car really quickly because they really want to see Dr. Sprinkle. So this sound represents how I don't know how they're like in panic situation. What you know what I mean? Like
I do, I think
it's
that's
really
really,
hard to explain,
I know
but
it's,
I
yeah.
yeah, this is something that I really want to talk about in
Well,
this session.
that's really right. I mean, what you're saying, Saki, is really what I had in mind. And so both of these words really describe this old truck because it has a low, if you've ever heard well, I'm sure, like a big truck or an old truck, it's like, bah, 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 bah. It's that rumbling sound. And sputtering is often used to describe an engine that's not working smoothly. I think it was also describing the truck at the end of what I just read, where it's sputtering. It's like it's not really starting smoothly. So when the truck is stopping, it's kind of, it's kind of like that. That's sputtering, right? The engine is sputtering. So I think you're exactly right. In the choice then is between words that can describe like arrive or reach. Those words can work in these sentences. That's true. But it doesn't have the same flavor and depth, right? So when you use words like rumble and sputter, then it really gives you a feeling and a sound in your ears, really, something that connects to the senses. It's a sensory experience, whereas arrive and reach are very bland. Bland means it doesn't have much flavor, doesn't have much taste. It's not really very interesting, right? There's nothing wrong with it, right? But my point, my larger point is verbs, the choice of verbs, probably in any language, but when we're talking about English now, the choice of verbs is very important because you can use a simple everyday verb like arrive or reach, but that won't touch or impact the reader in the same way as choosing a stronger verb, okay? So just as a general principle, let me suggest that when you're writing something, and I don't mean just fiction, it could be an essay or it could be a letter, whatever you're writing, if you choose active verbs, then your writing will probably be more lively, and it may influence or impact the reader in a stronger way. So when I'm writing anything, I'm thinking about the verbs. What verbs am I using? If I use arrive or reach, maybe that's okay. I'm not saying that's wrong. Maybe it's fine. It depends on what you're writing, right? And which kinds of words will be most effective, okay? So that's the general principle behind this question. And the specific example is these two words, which really describe the truck, even though I don't have to say truck, I don't have to say that because we already know that the truck is old. And so the reader can understand, the reader feels that right away, and they get a sensory impression of the truck and the fact, as Saki was saying, that Ben's parents are in a panic. It's a state of panic, isn't it? Right? Okay. That was very good. So thank you. I'm glad I was connecting to your question too. Okay, so page 86, paragraph 2. So we're introduced now to these two characters, these two important characters, Ben's parents, Walter Boyd, and we find out his nickname is Water Boy, which sounds like his name, okay? And this is really very important. And we already find out when Doc Sprinkle starts to say Water Boy, that Walter Boyd doesn't like it, right? We'll talk more about that in a minute. But that's an important plot point because the whole plot, part of the plot really turns on Walter Boyd and his nickname too, okay? Lorelei Boyd, we find out her name is Lollipop, which sounds a little bit like Lorelei, I suppose. Her nickname is less important. It's really not a plot point or anything. And I don't think we ever really find out why her nickname is Lollipop, but I think you could probably make a guess. Maybe when she was young, she always had a lollipop in her mouth, maybe something like that, okay? So page 86, paragraph 2, illustration, his lucky fishing hat. I just wanted to point something out about this lucky fishing hat, because as the story continues, you will see more illustrations of the father with the lucky fishing hat. And I won't tell you what to look for, but I just want to offer a clue that when I was working with the illustrator, we had an idea about the fishing hat. And so in the illustrations, I think you'll notice something if you compare the illustrations and also the father, okay? So anyway, when this comes up, you might look for it, see if there's anything interesting about the illustration work for the lucky fishing hat, okay? So page 86, paragraph 3, we have simile and some imagery. She left the house, Ben's mother, she left the house so suddenly that morning, her wavy hair was sticking out like modern art. That's a simile, right? And just 3 fingernails had polish. So that really, that's an image that it expresses the idea indirectly that they were in a panic and they left the house so quickly, right? So I don't really have to say directly, and it's not so interesting to say directly that, oh, she left so quickly. And then, if I can say it in a more interesting way that expresses the same idea, then I think the writing is stronger. So when I was writing this, I was really thinking about, okay, how to express the idea that they left really quickly in a panic. And, if you're doing your fingernails and you only do 3 and you're running out of the house, then you have a good reason for rushing, right? You have a good reason to rush. Okay, page 86, paragraph 6. This is another illustration I just wanted to point out, but from the days his hair was long and lush. So now he's bald, right? But we saw on page 27 before, that was the old picture of him, right? When he had nice long hair and when he was playing the bongos as a college student. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Okay, and let's continue. Page 88, paragraph 4, here we have an idiom where the guard says, I can see you're not exactly made of money, the guard said, nodding at the rusty old truck. So the guard looks at this old truck and he says, you're not made of money. I can see you're not made of money. Made of money means, of course, you don't have a lot of money, okay, in this case. If you are made of money, it means you have a lot of money. So made of money is you have a lot of money. So here's an example. Do I look like I'm made of money, right? So if someone was asking me, oh, please let me borrow a lot of money, please let me borrow, I don't know, and do I look like I'm made of money, right? So that's an idiom. Page 88, paragraph 4, one of the raccoons had a touch of diarrhea, okay? A touch of means a small amount of something, all right? A small amount. The reason, to me, a touch of diarrhea, it's the contrast between a touch of and diarrhea, because a touch of often describes, for example, in cooking, oh, my spaghetti sauce has a touch of garlic, a touch of garlic. Or I can't think of something else now, a touch of, I can't think of another good example, but it's often used in situations that are, you know, more like refined or upper class or more sophisticated, a touch of something, okay? It means a little, just a little, a small amount of, but here it's connected with diarrhea, so it has a strange and humorous contrast. We have another idiom on page 88, paragraph 5. Now take your dying llama away from here before that groaning puts a damper on a little girl's birthday party, okay? So to put a damper on something, it's usually something that, like some event, for example, that is exciting, very positive, but if you put a damper on it, it means that it's less exciting, it's less positive, okay? So for example, the rain put a damper on our picnic, okay? We were very excited to have a picnic. It's very fun. It's very positive experience. Oh no, it's raining. The rain put a damper on our picnic, okay? And so in the story, the contrast again, I think, is humorous because the guard is saying, take the dying llama away. It's putting a damper on a little girl's birthday party, right? So it's the contrast between the dying llama and a birthday party. So page 88, paragraph 6, we have another simile and some alliteration. Yesterday, he was fit as fiddlesticks. So this is Ben's father talking about Henry, right? Henry is sick, but he was yesterday, he was fit as fiddlesticks. I just made this up, really. I just put it together. I thought it sounded good, okay? Fit as fiddlesticks. It doesn't really have a meaning, but for Ben's father, it means he was very healthy yesterday, right? However, fiddlesticks actually has a meaning. It's used as an interjection or exclamation, like ouch, right? Something like that. It's interesting though, I like the sound of the word, but it has, it has kind of an old-fashioned sound to it. So most people don't use this word really, But for the story, it makes sense because these are people that are in the countryside. And so fiddlesticks sounds suitable for this situation. But anyway, as a word, fiddlesticks, it's used if someone says something and you disagree with that. Someone says, oh, someone says, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I have lots of skills, and I would say fiddlesticks. Like I disagree that it's not possible, right? Or, and this is similar, I can say fiddlesticks, like nonsense. That's nonsense, okay? So it's kind of similar. It's the idea of I'm disagreeing with what you say, or I think what you say is nonsense, okay? But if you use this, it kind of sounds funny, I think, because it's old fashioned. It sounds like someone who lives in the country, maybe. Okay, page 88, paragraph 7. Here's a name, but it's not Doc Sprinkle, right? I'm sorry, this is the guard. I'm sorry about the dying llama, but you'll just have to wait to see your Doc Sparkle. Now, why does it say Doc Sparkle and not Doc Sprinkle? What do you think? Any ideas?
So I thought so, and so it could be not. So the doctor in the party, so his name was Doc Sparkle.
That's possible. That's possible.
And also just just so he I forgot his name. So
The
right
guard.
now, yeah, the guard. So he it's not remembering something, or so yeah, especially a person's name.
Right, right. I think that's what I was suggesting, that the guard, he doesn't really know Doc Sprinkle. He only heard the name maybe twice. And not only does he not really know Doc Sprinkle, he doesn't really care, you know? So he just says Doc Sparkle because it sounds similar and he's not really thinking, right? So he doesn't really know and he doesn't really care. But because he says Doc Sparkle, it also makes the scene a little more interesting and humorous. And so on page 90, paragraph 1, Grandpa Gristle is talking about the phone, right? The fact that when this took place, when the story takes place, there weren't any cell phones, there were no Keitai, right? So he says, there were no newfangled gadgets like the little phones people tote around today like an extra extremity. So what does that mean? There were no newfangled gadgets. Newfangled, it means new things, okay? But it means new in a way that's kind of criticizing those new things, okay? So if I call something newfangled, I'm kind of criticizing it. Like, why do we need those new things? Kind of like that attitude, okay? So if you tell me, oh, there's a new social media platform and it has all these cool new tools and functions, I'll be like, who needs another newfangled social media platform? You know, so newfangled, it means new or modern, but it's criticizing that new thing, really. Gadgets, of course, are little machines or devices like kitchen gadgets. You know, you could go to the Hyakuen shop and you can find lots of little gadgets. So he says, there were no newfangled gadgets like the little phones people tote around. Tote is mean carry around today, like an extra extremity. Extremity here means like a hand or a foot. So basically he's saying that people today, they use their cell phone. It's almost like part of their body, like another hand, you know? So he's really criticizing the idea that people rely on their smartphones so much, okay? Okay, page 90, paragraph 2, there's some personal elements here. Grandma, for her part, this is when Ben's father was calling, right, home. Grandma, for his part, that expression means concerning them or regarding them, okay? Grandma, for her part, was pulling a tick. I think we talked about ticks, right? Was pulling a tick from Alf, that's the little dog, from Alf's rump, that's the butt, and pretending not to hear the ring. So grandma, remember, maybe she can't hear well, or maybe she can, but the idea is she only listens or only hears what she wants to, right? When she doesn't want to hear something, she doesn't really pay attention. So she's pretending not to hear the ring. So why is this a personal element? Because I think I told you that where my father was living, and the setting of the story is based on that location, okay? In the countryside, in the woods, but there are many ticks there, okay? And so whenever we went there, it was really hard to avoid the ticks, and they would get on your body or in your hair. And I remember my father, when he was out there, living out there, he had some cats, for example, and they often, well, they went inside, but they were outside a lot. And so they would get ticks on their butt sometimes, or other parts of their body. So that's true. And this other part about pretending not to hear the ring, that's true about me, honestly, because I'm not the kind of person who, when the phone rings, I immediately answer it. It really depends on who's calling me, or if I'm busy doing something. I don't just run to the phone and pick it up. So for example, in our house, I have a K-tie, and of course I know basically who's calling me, and sometimes I answer, sometimes I don't. But if the home phone rings and I'm the only one home, and that's usually the case, I often don't answer it because I'm doing something, and it might be a salesperson, it often is. So I'm really not the kind of person that I immediately answer the phone if it rings. I just don't do that. And I often prefer, someone, my friends know, will send me a message. It's just easier for me. And then I'll send a message back to you. So pretending not to hear the ring, that sometimes describes me, because that's true. But I want to say, I know you probably won't call me. Well, maybe you will someday, you'll have my phone number. But about messages, because you can send messages to me through Ego Station now, there is a DM. You can message me. If you do message me, I will message you back, and I'll message you back as quickly as I can. So I just wanted to say that so you won't think that I'm ignoring you, or Adam's going to ignore me, or I'll pretend not to see your message, okay? So if I don't respond pretty soon, it means I didn't see it or something happened, okay? So page 92, paragraph 1, on the doctor's heels. On the doctor's heels means following him was a tidal wave, a tsunami of children. That's a metaphor because it doesn't use like or as, like a simile does, right? So this is a clear metaphor, a tidal wave of children. Page 90, paragraph 11, a plot point. This is an important plot point, and it's coming up again soon. A bloody scrap, a small piece of the frilly tutu still clung to the spike at the top of the gate. And then later it goes down, right? It falls down, and Doc Sprinkle picks it up and takes it to the trailer with Henry. Okay, so that's a plot point. So a little bit more, page 93, paragraph 2, Again, this is a plot point and it's a personal element, but the big bear sucking furiously on two front claws dashed away into the distance. First of all, sucking furiously, furious, yes, it means angry, very angry, but in this case, it really means, furiously means intensely, okay, very strongly. So yes, the bear is angry, but he's very upset. But the meaning here is really he's sucking very intensely, very strongly on his two front claws. And that's a plot point that we'll come back to later, okay? But it's also a personal element in an interesting way, because when my children are older now, they're 18 and 15, but when my kids were like 2 and 3, maybe even 4, they sucked on two fingers, both of them. That's what they did, okay? And it was even hard to get them to stop sucking on their two fingers, especially my daughter. I was wondering, when will she stop sucking her fingers? When will she stop sucking her fingers? But they really, it was comforting to them. They really enjoyed it. And then finally, as they grew older, they stopped doing it, okay? But so there is kind of a connection with the bear. So I mentioned this before, page 93, paragraph 4. This is a plot point. Ben's father winced at the sound of his nickname. And remember, the nickname here is Water Boy. It sounds very similar to Walter Boyd. So he doesn't like his nickname. The word wince means something is painful. It could be physically painful or emotionally painful. Here, it's emotionally painful in some way. So wince is like, So if you have, for example, a toothache, right? And it hurts you sometimes, you're like, that's wincing. So he winced at the sound of his nickname. Why? We don't know yet, but we will find out. And page 95, paragraph 3, again, Doc Sprinkle hobbled on. Tears were now streaming down his worn face. Worn face means very tired, so he looks very tired. But my question is, can you guess why he's called Doc Sprinkle? Why is that his nickname? What do you think? Doc Sprinkle hobbled on. Tears were now streaming down his worn face. Any ideas? Why does everyone call him Doc Sprinkle?
He cries a lot.
Yes, exactly. He cries a lot. He cries a lot. He cries very easily, right? You can see that in his character now already. We just met him, right? But we can see he's already crying a lot. So sprinkle is like water, right? It's sprinkling water. If I'm watering my plants, I'm sprinkling water. So it's connected to water, it's connected to tears, and that's why he's called Doc Sprinkle. Okay, and so, okay, we're almost done. Sorry, we're already after 11. Page 95, paragraph 8. This is a phrasal verb. This will all blow over in a day or two, and we can come back here for your truck. So blow over means there's some kind of trouble, but it will be okay, and there won't be any serious consequences. It will be fine. There won't be any problems. There's some trouble now, but it will be okay. It will blow over in a day or two, okay? And I wanted to point out this is maybe interesting, page 97, paragraph 4. This is what Doc Sprinkle says, right? This is non-standard grammar. He says, Henry's been bit. Henry has been bit. But I mean, grammatically, that's not really correct because it's bite, bit, bitten. It should be Henry has been bitten, right? Bitten. But this kind of grammar is very common in the countryside, for example, a lot of people who are in the countryside or maybe are countryside or they don't have a high education, they use grammar in a more flexible way, let's say. Of course, Doc Sprinkle is a doctor, so he's very highly educated, but he's part of the country. He's a country person. And so it's very natural for him and other people to use grammar in this way. Henry's been bit, okay? But it sounds kind of like a country expression. Page 97, paragraph 6, a white widow, a black widow is a dangerous, poisonous spider, right? So a white widow, we will find out more about the white widow, but I made this up, okay? There is no white widow, I don't think, but I wanted to create a dangerous spider, so I called it a white widow. And the last part is page 97, paragraph 10, an idiom. I'm afraid looking for the anti-venom around here would be a wild goose chase. So a wild goose chase is an interesting idiom that means searching for something, trying to find something, but it's hopeless, okay? You can't find it, all right? So it's kind of a hopeless search. So we often say, go on a wild goose chase. For example, the search for aliens in the universe may be a wild goose chase, okay? So, sorry, I'm already past time, but if you want to stay with me, I'm happy to stay as long as you like. If you have questions or comments about pages 86 to 98, I'll open it up to you. I will stop the share. Okay, anyone? Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Page 95
Page
and
95.
paragraph 2, line 1, 2, 3, 4. I see peered,
Yes.
but I don't know the difference between peer and stare and gaze.
That's a very interesting question. So on 95 at the top, paragraph 2, Doc Sprinkle peered back over his shoulder in the direction Stanley had fled. Okay. Okay. Bye, Kana. I'll talk to you again soon, okay? So the question is peer versus gaze, right? So these two verbs, they both mean looking, right? But what's the difference? So the difference really is that peer, especially for Doc Sprinkle, who is older and he wears glasses, peer has a feeling of like the eyes are a little bit maybe closer together and I'm peering like that. So gazing is a little more general. They mean the same thing. They overlap, but gazing is like strong looking, right? Gazing. But peering is a little bit more focused, it seems to me. Of course, gazing also can be focused, but in this case, gazing sounds like it would be too long. It doesn't fit this situation well because Doc Sprinkle is not really gazing. He doesn't have enough time to gaze, okay? You need a little bit more time, there needs to be a little bit more time and maybe a casual atmosphere to gaze, okay? If I'm gazing, the two lovers were gazing into each other's eyes, okay? But he's peering and he doesn't have that much time. He's really looking and he's really focused and his eyes might be kind of squinting a little bit to see. Understand? So it's a very good question. It's a little hard to answer, but they overlap in that way. For different situations, maybe peer is better, maybe gaze is better, and sometimes maybe either one can work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, sure. Any other questions, comments?
Okay, just I'd like to share with you. This my I enjoy as always I enjoy so your sentences or phrases, but so in this chapter so I enjoyed how to express so that I'm moving so because to expression in here so one of them is his eyes running wide and flicking left and right. So on the page 92, and also I enjoy it. So his eyes touch the horizon. So on the page 95. So yeah, and so I know so why you chose these phrases or you chose words, but I want to know more. Know the background, the deep meaning.
Okay,
So
good.
here.
So the first one was about Stanley the bear. After he jumped over the fence, he jumped out, right? And he's about to run away. Just before that, his eyes were flicking. His eyes were flicking. Flick means quickly, right? Like I can flick my finger like that. So flicking means his eyes are moving back left and right. Just he's looking left and right, left and right. Why? Because he's panicking now too, right? He's very upset. His eyes are looking back and forth like what's going on? And so it really, I think, when I was trying to write this to express or to describe the bear's state of mind or his emotional state, I was trying to choose descriptive words and images to help the reader understand what the bear is feeling, right? And so when, of course, it's a bear, but if someone is doing that and they're looking left and right like that, combined with the other descriptions, I think we probably would feel like, oh no, this person is really fearful, something, some kind of panic is going on, right? So to me, that's an important detail just before he bolts. Bolt means to run away quickly, right? He suddenly runs away. So he's looking around and then suddenly he runs away, right? So, and then the other part was he searched the horizon, right? Yeah, so we were talking about peer on page 95. Doc Sprinkle peered back over his shoulder in the direction Stanley had fled. His eyes searched the horizon, right? So his eyes searched the horizon. So Doc Sprinkle, he's very upset, of course. And so he continues to look again, right? That was important, I felt, because after the bear runs away, he doesn't just look once and then the bear's gone. He's talking to Ben's parents, but then he looks again. He's just, it's in his mind. He can't let it go. He's worried about Stanley. He loves Stanley, and Stanley has disappeared. Will Stanley be okay? We don't know, but Ben's father says, well, this happened before, right? And it happened before at the state fair, and then Stanley ended up running back or finally going back home. So, Doc Sprinkle probably is hoping that that's true, but he's very worried about his bear because it's probably his best friend. I mean, he's had the bear for years and years, ever since Stanley was a small cub, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure, sure. Anything else? Questions or comments? Okay, okay. Well, as always, of course, feel free to add something to the board, the book club board. Or again, you're now free to message me directly. That's possible too. So let me go back and we'll talk about next time. Oh yes, so the next session of the book club is on August 6th. For homework, please read pages 99 to 113. I just wanted to ask, maybe we don't have to decide anything tonight. Of course, there would be many more sessions. I wanted just to ask, and maybe just think about this, is 10 p.m. okay for everybody? Or is 9 p.m. better? Or is 9:30 better? I know everyone has a different schedule and maybe it's hard to find the best time, but maybe I'll ask this question again next time and maybe we can talk about it a little bit more. I can do 10 o'clock. It's a little bit late for me. When I'm doing this, I feel energized and so it's not hard, but before I'm kind of getting tired. So I don't normally, stay up very late. I know it's not very late, but anyway, so I'm okay with 10 o'clock, but if the majority of people actually want to do this starting at 9:30 or even 9 o'clock, maybe we can adjust the time. But anyway, it's an open question, so just think about it. We can talk about it again next time. Okay, so next time it will be 10 o'clock again. And so everything else is the same. If you don't have a copy of the book, you can find it at Amazon. I will post the video again tomorrow. You can watch all the previous sessions if you miss any or you want to watch it again. And you can offer feedback or ask questions by leaving a comment at the book club board. And I guess that's about it. And so I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, if there are other spaces about how I lost my ear, then feel free to join those. I think that's very exciting. And I'm very interested to see what happens with this kind of energy. So, everything is a work in progress. And I think this whole book club is really it's a new experience for me and well, probably for all of us. And it's really a work in progress. So let's see where it all goes. And if I can be some kind of support to what you're doing or what you want to do, then feel free to reach out to me too, okay? Okay, anything else today?
I'm sorry, this is apart from the today's chapter, but
Yeah.
going back to chapter 1, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Page 6, maybe in the middle part, and you wrote, and ever since his father pried it off, he have been afraid to go anywhere near it. I mean, this is about tuba. So, but I don't describe the scene. So maybe he hit the tuba, right? But I didn't know what did his father pried it off.
Okay, okay. So we're talking about, I don't have the picture of the tuba, but can you imagine the shape of a tuba and what it looks like, right? Because it has a big open bell, right?
Okay.
It has a big open bell, and a big tuba could actually fit on top of a head. It probably,
Really? This
yes. So imagine the tuba upside down and the bell of the tuba, especially this is a small boy, right? And so somehow, Ben is very clumsy. Somehow the bell of the tuba, it went over his head, and maybe the tuba's now, maybe we can't see his face, right? We can't see his head. And so the tuba is stuck on his head upside down, and the father, so something like his father had to pry it, off. So
Mm.
prying something is when something is stuck. For example, let's say, okay, let's say I have a jar of pickles, okay? And the lid to the jar of pickles is so tight, I can't get it off. So I have to get something, let's say even a screwdriver or some kind of tool, and I'm like prying it off, right? I have to pry it off. So I don't know, we can imagine, how did Ben's father pry the tuba off his head? Maybe he had some kind of tool, like a crowbar. Do you know crowbar? It's like for a car. You have like a pipe, right? You can look this up later, or I'll find a picture later. A crowbar is for a car, like when you are fixing your car, like you have a flat tire and you have to take off the tire. Maybe you use a crowbar. So imagine the tuba is stuck on Ben's head. Here's the tuba, it's stuck on the head like this. And the father took a crowbar or some kind of tool and put it inside and is like prying it off, and then was able to get the tuba off Ben's head. So that's the image, and that's the situation about what happened when, of course, this, I don't know if this ever really happened in real life. Maybe it did. If we look at Instagram videos or TikTok, maybe it's true, right? I don't know. But anyway, it's possible, and that's what happened to Ben.
So actually, I thought it was a mouthpiece. So how did it crack off his head? So I how can I say? I understand very clearly.
Okay, good. Thank you for the question. Yes. So like that, I mean, feel free when something doesn't seem to make sense clearly, then I'm happy to try to explain it if I can. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks again. It's always great to see everybody. And we're on number 7 tonight, and next week, number 8, and we'll continue to meet and meet and meet. And we have a lot more exciting pages to read. All right. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll be in touch again soon, I'm sure. Okay. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
All right. Good night.